Okay, today we are introducing the second set of Core 4 words. Online today and presenting will be myself, Erin Sheldon, Mary Louise Bertram, who we're very excited has joined us to help in particular with anyone who is using a POD, a pragmatically organized dynamic display system, and Dr. Carolyn Muscle. So Carolyn, go ahead and advance the slide.
I did. Is it showing?
Oh, now it is. So today we're going to be doing things. We're going to introduce the second set of Core 4, and you'll remember from 2 weeks ago that the Core 4 are the high-frequency words we're introducing each month, and then over the course of the month we'll expand on how we can use those. Today we're also going to be exploring one specific modeling strategy called reflection, and Mary Louise will be talking about that because I've honestly never seen anyone who's better at it than she is. We will be talking about how to extend the ideas that we've been talking about here with core words to our pod users simply because they have a uniquely organized vocabulary that makes it it's just raised a lot of questions in the pod community about how to participate in this. And then Carolyn will be introducing, again, some more word play to help our kids be able to explore the sounds of language as part of their language development. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I did.
Okay. In terms of the framework of how Maureen Nevers has helped us organize this whole system in the 5 steps, this again is a teaching webinar that we're really exploring the strategies that we can use as the adults, as the parents, as the teachers with our kids to help them be able to access the communication system. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I did.
Okay. And just for quick review, you may have hopefully watched Maureen Nevers' webinar last week where she talked about what core words are and just gave a deeper explanation of what they are. But just as a reminder, core words are a relatively small set of words that we use frequently all across the day in many different places. And the real power of core words is that they're easily combined and recombined with lots of other words to express just a huge range of messages. It's also used in the speech therapy world as a way to describe one method of organizing a communication system, the words in a communication system. So when we talk about core, we mean that small set of really high frequency words. And when we talk about fringe, we mean those really specific words such as nouns. So I like to go to are all high frequency core words, but when I say Starbucks or McDonald's, those are fringe. So there's a very strong overlap between core words, those high frequency words, and the first words that kids learn how to speak, read, and spell. And that's a major reason why we're focusing on core words in this series, because core words really also support literacy development. And the way that we have organized this series is this is again just review, but the best research we could find on core words was done through the Dynamic Learning Maps and the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And what the Dynamic Learning Maps did was figure out the top 40 words, and they ranked them, both in terms of their frequency and how they're used in speech, but also in reading and writing, and the value that they have for helping our AAC users be able to participate in a classroom, in a conversation, that sort of thing. So this week we are looking at their second set of core words, which you can see here, the stack in a row across. The words are help, it, more, and different. So take a second to find these in your system. And don't worry, if you're a pod user and it's not immediately evident, then Mary Louise will help you with that in a moment. So take a look at your system. And Carolyn, go ahead. I've just got a few screenshots of different systems so people can think about where they might be. Help, it, more, different. Oh, but first, I just wanted to address a question, if you just go back one slide, Carolyn, that many people have raised, which is we introduced 4 words 2 weeks ago, and I've already gotten many, many questions from people asking, how do I know if my child is ready for another 4 words? Should I just stick with modeling the 4 words I've got? How do I know when they're ready? And so I want to just make sure we talked about that really quick, because I think the real question is whether we are ready. You know, when the first day that we brought our babies home from the hospital, we didn't think to ourselves, which 4 words are they ready for, and let's only speak those 4 words until they start using them, right? We didn't do that. We know that from the moment a child is born, they're ready to be spoken to, and it's that speaking to them, speaking around them that lays the foundation for them to start speaking about a year later. So we know that. It's just much harder for us as we're trying to introduce a communication system. But I think the real challenge is actually whether we're ready. What we're hoping that this series will do is help you over the course of each webinar, over the course of each month, be able to just really easily and naturally and kind of automatically find these high-frequency words in your system and be able to use them across the day as you are talking with your child. If you're really struggling with those first 4 words, then talk about it on the Facebook group, and let's see if we can help you problem solve whatever's going on. But what you'll see is that when we introduce these next 4 today, we're actually going to be able to use the first 4 even more richly, because now we're going to expand how we're using the first 4 words, I, like, not, and want, by being able to start using them with the next 4. And what we'll find is that as we go across, we're going to, over the course of the series, we're going to use all these words with more and more frequency. And in many ways, we're going to find that the more words we have, the more words we can now model. Because if we're trying to restrict every idea in our head to just a few words, it actually becomes very difficult to model. So I just wanted to make sure we talked about that, but I think the real question is, are you ready for more words? And chances are you are, because if you've been trying to model those first 4 and you were struggling, then probably it's because you don't have quite enough words. So let's go ahead and expand on that. But if you have any questions about it or you're running into problems, do talk about it in the Facebook group. And let's brainstorm that as a group. So here's one sample of a core board that Kate or Erin had shared on the Practical AAC website. So take a moment and look for those words there. I can see help down at the bottom, it in the middle along the left-hand side, different along the right-hand side, more down at the bottom. So just take a look at your system, find these words. Carolyn, go ahead and show the next one. This is Deanna Wagner. She took the Dynamic Learning Map's top 40 and added 5 more. So one of the beauties of Deanna's board is that we'll be able to always find all of these, because obviously each core board might have a slightly different selection of core words that it's using. So we're just looking for help, it, more, and different, whatever system you've got. So some of you I know are using this one, and some, if you go ahead, Carolyn. And some of you might be using a system more like Proloquo. And just from informal surveys I've done with our community, this is actually the most commonly used. Carolyn, if you go ahead and progress to the next screen, what I did was the first 4 words that we introduced 2 weeks ago have a light green shading. And for me personally, I find this really helpful when we are trying to emphasize specific messages. I often go into the programming of the system and just give myself a quick visual cue, so it's really easy for me to quickly scan and find the symbol that I wanted to emphasize. So this is just one option that you can do. And Carolyn, if you scroll to the next slide, you can see where these are. This is the Proloquo Crescendo vocabulary. It's a 6x10 display, which is one that both Carolyn and Maureen and I all really like as a starter system. And you can see that I've highlighted now in a kind of light orange this week's words. So it, help, more, and different. So hopefully now you have found the words in your system. And let's talk about why we're going to be targeting these. Again, this is a little bit of repetition, but what we're trying to do here is really cover ground in a few different ways. We're trying to strengthen the concept knowledge that our kids have of these specific words by making them really meaningful, associating these by the words in their communication system. And the way we're going to make them motivating is creating really strong associations between the things that matter most to them, which is often things like interaction, and these words, to show them the power of these words. We are targeting words just because sometimes if we just target a few words at a time, we can become much more automatic in finding the words. We don't have to look for them every time. And when we are more general and just trying to model on the fly without targeting them, we often end up slowing down because we're just looking so carefully to find the words we need. So what we're hoping to do by having these targeted words is just be able to make this use of these words much more automatic for us. And by targeting some words, we're just trying to put them front and center in our own minds so that we can really increase the frequency of how often we use them and how often we combine and recombine them. We've already covered a few different ways in which we can model these words, but what Mary Louise will be covering after we cover these first 4 words is reflection. So using the symbol to reflect what the student is already communicating. And I thought these 4 words really lend themselves well to reflecting. So often for our kids, they're using their bodies, they're using their facial expressions, they're using their gestures, they're using their laughter to communicate an idea. And what we're going to start doing is associating that message that they're already sharing in a much more general way with their body with specific vocabulary that is now available to them, so that they can start realizing that they can express that same idea, but maybe in a more specific way that's more easily understood and therefore more appropriately responded to if they're able to express it with a system. So we're going to reflect for them by using their device to express that same idea. So the first word is help. Help is a very high frequency word. It's a very value word because it helps to change the behavior of the people around you. When you need help with something you can't do independently, then being able to request it in a really clear way is just extremely valuable. And I think if we then stop and think about our kids living with disabilities, it's even more important because they need more assistance. They need assistance with things all across the school day and all across the day at home, everywhere they go in the community. They just tend to need a lot of assistance. If we can help them ask for it in a way where they're clearly understood, then it's just going to make them much more effective. Help, in its most simple form, just means to give someone assistance. It means to make something possible for them, or it means to make it easier. It's on the face of it, it's not a complicated word. And go ahead. Yes. And we can use it in a whole variety of ways. We can ask our student, can I help you? We can say to our student, I need your help. We can say to the people around us, hey, I need your help over here. We can exclaim help. And we can thank our students and anyone else for the help that they give us. So on the face of it, it's a very simple word. But I also think we have to really step back and think about it, because if you ask people, do you like to receive help? Do you like to be helped? Do you like to ask for help? Most of us actually don't. And if you look in our society, I think we generally associate help with being passive while someone else does something for us. I think it's often associated with shame because we put a very strong value on independence and we tend to discourage needing help. If you look at how people talk about help in the classroom or at home, we value and thank the person who provided the help. We rarely provide recognition to the person who received help. That's not generally the valued role. And help is often controlled by the person providing it, right? When I offer to help you, there's often an assumption that it's kind of my right to decide what are the boundaries of that help and how am I going to provide it. So as we then look at how we're going to model the word help, I think that given the nature of our kids' disabilities, we have to also be modeling a different understanding of what help means. I think we need to be modeling requesting help as much as possible because our kids are going to require more help and they need a model of how everybody needs help. So the more that we can model requesting help from other people, requesting help from our person with Angelman, then I think the more effective we can be with this word. It's interesting to me because help is always listed such high frequency on all these different core word lists, and yet it's not a word people tend to be excited to use, and it's because of all those associations with help. So we need to thank our kids every time they help us. We need to ask them for our help, but we also need to show them that we can ask everyone around us. We need to model for them that we have the right to direct how we are helped, to tell someone, I need your help, and now I need you to do it this way, to put it here, to do it like that. We need to model that it is fine, it is valued when we decline help. If I ask you for help and you say no, that is your right. And we can use words like help even when we're just apologizing, to say, I'm sorry I did that, I couldn't help it, and use the word in more creative ways as well. But so often what I see in classrooms is kids being helped whether or not they want it. And I think that's part of what we need to start addressing. So as we're modeling the word help, we're also modeling the concept of help. And I think we need to be really conscious that we're not modeling that there is any shame or apology associated with help, because every single one of us is going to need help all throughout our lifespans, but at particular times. Our kids with Angelman might need more help more often than most people, but every single one of us needs help at some point in the day, at some point in the year, at some point over the course of our lifetimes. It is normal and natural for every person to need help and rely on the people around them. We each have the right to receive the help that we want on our own terms, which means we have the right to direct how we want that help provided. That help can be provided in a way that is very active for the person receiving it. And really the question of whether help was effective or not is whether the person receiving it was able to do what they wanted to do as a result of it, not whether the person who provided it felt good about providing it. So we need to model for our kids that we can receive help and still maintain our dignity and our autonomy. And when we model that everyone needs help and that's okay, everyone needs help and we're not sacrificing our dignity when we do it, then we're actually changing our society. We're changing the associations that our society currently makes with help. And we're addressing some of the tragedies that have happened in our society when people feel that it's not okay to ask for help. And they come up against a wall and they take drastic measures rather than realize that they can ask for help and receive it on their own terms. We need to make sure we model for our kids when they refuse help, when they're pushing our hands away, you're saying, no, do not help me. And we're modeling for our kids that we provide help not out of charity, not out of pity, but out of solidarity. We are recognizing that our kids have unusual challenges and unusual barriers, and out of solidarity, we are going to help them dismantle those. So that's help. The second word is it. And see, we can already model things like I couldn't help it, but I just had to go off a little bit on on the meaning of help and just making sure that we're really thinking about that as we start trying to target it as a word. The word it is a very high frequency word because it can refer to any object, and especially when we are trying to model a core word system, we're not going to have all those objects, all those nouns that might be it, all those specific fringe words available on our core display, but we've got it. It's an easy beginning sight word for kids to learn how to read. It's a word that helps them learn how to read other words. It's a word that can be combined with any verb. So it's a really high utility word, and it's one of those words where pretty much any time we're talking about an object, we can model the word it. So how can we use it? We can talk about, oh, you're laughing, you like it. You say, I like it too. We're eating chocolate, I like it. We can model, you do not like it, you're pushing it away. Or we can ask, do you want it? That kind of thing. Maureen, I think we need you to mute your mic. Our third word, so it is a very simple one. Our third word is more. More refers to anything about quantity, anything about size, degree, whether that's more pretty or whether it's more big, whether there's more of them. It's a great describing word. So it's something that lets us start introducing all kinds of concepts around degree and quantity. And any of us who have kids with Angelin, we've all experienced kind of getting that Big Mac put in front of us, getting that symbol in front of us, being taught how to sign more. And so often, the way that we were taught to use it was all about requesting. So a very common story among families in our communities is that the first word introduced to our kids was more. And it was used in terms of, oh, do you want more? Here's one more. Oh, do you want another? Here's one more, where we doled something out while modeling more and asking our kids to use the sign to get more. And yet there's so much more value to that. And some of our kids experienced that intervention where we make them request everything by saying more over and over again as a very controlled experience where they just decided to opt out. They didn't want to be part of something where it's obvious that what they want is more of something and where we're going to make them perform in order to get it. So just be really aware of that. Some of our kids really enjoy it, but many of our kids perceive being asked to say more as very controlled. So we can instead use words like more to help maintain an interaction. So we're swinging or we're wrestling and we can stop. And when our child looks at us with that face that says, I want to do some more, we can say, oh, let's do some more. Model the word then. We can use it in all kinds of commenting and describing, such as the kind of silly wordplay that moms and children and parents and children often have, such as I love you more. No, I love you more. We can use more to talk about things like when we're finished, such as you do not want more, once our child has started shoving something away that they don't actually want in front of them anymore. So it's a great word, but let's really try to make sure we're not just using it for requesting. And the last word that we're introducing this week is different. This is not the kind of high-frequency sight word, high-frequency word that kids learn how to read or write or even speak as much as the others. But the word different is so powerful. It's very high value. It allows kids to start having a conversation about whether something is the same or different, whether something is like this or different. And it really starts to give them their first ability to have real choices, because so often our kids have been restricted to, do you want this one or that one, and choosing only between two items. And yet all of us know if we went to a restaurant and the waiter came up and said, would you like the pasta or would you like the steak? We'd all say, can I see the whole menu? we would all say, I'd like some pasta, but what kind? I'd like, maybe I want pasta, but I want to know what my different options are, or I want it with this, but not with that. And if we have limited choice making for our kids to only 2 concrete choices, then we've actually never given them access to the rest of their options. So we can use words like different to say, if we really feel we have to limit it to 2 choices, then do you want this or do you want something different? Oh, you don't want that? You must want something different. Okay, then do you want this or something different? How about this or something different? Some of our kids, like my own daughter Maggie, the first participation that she had in choice making was only when she got the option of something different. And that suddenly became one of her most high frequency words for a long time, because she realized that in any situation where someone was offering her a choice, she could now actually take some control over that and now make sure that she could see all of her options. And we would inevitably get to, I'm sorry, there's nothing different. That was everything. And now we could go back and review what we'd already shown her. And so now that you've seen everything, because you said no to that and no to that, you wanted something different, now we can go back and show them all again. And she was satisfied that she had actually been offered everything. So we can model, I don't think I'd like that. I think I'd like something different. And especially in the classroom, we can model using words like and different to talk about how are these 2 things like each other, but how are these 2 things different, and start using it in more academic instruction. So at this point, why don't we take a question if anybody has one, and then we will hand the screen over to Mary Louise. And Mary Louise was going to talk about reflecting and pod.
Can you let me know when you want me to talk, Erin, please?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to see if there are any questions. Mary Louise, I'm not seeing your screen yet, so I think we're still switching your screen over.
Oh, okay.
You see it now?
You just have to say okay.
Okay. Okay. So it should say aided language stimulation techniques.
Yes, it does.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So when Erin was talking about how we're reflecting and how we're modelling, the reflection comes under the techniques that we use when we're doing aided language stimulation with our children, with our students, with the people that we work with. So one of the frameworks that we use in Australia is the acronym of MORSE, and reminding ourselves that we need opportunities to do all of this. And why, hang on, sorry, I'm not working, nothing's working. There we go. Okay, so we have to remember that we have to actively create opportunities all day, every day, as much as possible for meaningful shared communication. This means that, you know, we set up our aided language environment. There are lots of families who are realising that if our child is wearing a talker, then we need to have a modelling talker. We can't just start pressing the talker that the child's wearing on their chest. That if I'm in the bath, I need a place to, a way to have an aided language environment. So like Caroline was talking a couple of weeks ago about aided language environments, we have to actively think about how we create that environment, but also the opportunities that we provide for the child during the day to actually use the aided language resources. So we talk about modelling, and you know, we've discussed that a lot in the series, using the symbols, pointing to the symbols as we speak, not worrying about whole sentences, just thinking about the key words, So we have to provide opportunities for modelling. When it comes to reflection, we have to provide opportunities and really remind ourselves that we have to observe what the children are doing, and that the reflection part of it is all about observing and then responding to what we observe in the child. We have lots of ways of scaffolding interactions with the children, but if we're not observing and responding to what they're doing, then there's no point of scaffolding anything else, because it then means that we're scaffolding our agenda and not the children's agenda. And with emergent communicators, it's often all about their own agenda, and we're teaching them that this language, this AAC, this really hard, tricky stuff is power for them, and it's not just a way for us to boss them around. And we expand their messages. So this acronym of Morse comes from the work of Gail Porter, and it's adapted by Laura Pengelly. So if I go to my next page, verbal referencing is a term that Gail Porter and Linda Burkhart use, and we've used it in Australia for a while, and I was certainly introduced to it probably 8 years ago now, and it's part of the natural feedback that we use with our AAC learners as we scaffold these rich communication shared interactions. Gail Porter describes this natural feedback in that it always focuses on what the partner's understanding of the child's message is. So we're providing feedback to the child about what we're understanding about their message. First, we must remember that we have to be present in this shared communication interaction. We have to observe the child's multimodal communication. All the children we work with, no matter what their disability, are amazing communicators. We really just have to listen. When I was a little girl, there was the world's most annoying song called I Can Sing a Rainbow, and there was a line I never understood, and it said, "Listen with your eyes." And I thought it was the silliest thing I'd ever heard. But when I started using AAC and learning about how to be present with children who are learning and early communicators, it all made sense that you have to listen to the whole child with your eyes. You have to watch absolutely everything they're doing. That slight change of affect, they might be reaching, they might be smiling, they might have a change in tone. You are listening to that child's voice with your eyes. When we are using strategic feedback, natural feedback, when we're doing that modelling, observing, responding, we have to come from the place that we see everything the child does as intentional and strategic. The children do what they do for a reason, and we need to honour that and describe it back to them with what we're seeing, give that natural feedback of what our understanding of the child's message is. So we attribute meaning to all that they do, and that might be a change in affect. It might be them reaching out and grabbing us. It might be them flapping, them moving forwards. Everything they do is intentional, and we honour that. And when we're doing verbal referencing, we then say out loud, we verbally reference, we say out loud the meaning that we're attributing to their multimodal communication. So basically, when we talk to families about verbal referencing, we break it down and say, basically you just say what you see. You tell the child what you see him doing, and then you use the AAC to model the communicative intent that you think that the child's actions or gestures or behaviours or change in affect are suggesting. So we would say, oh, I see you reaching for the bread. And then we would use the AAC to say, oh, maybe you're saying I want more, and I'm touching the more symbol on my AAC system. Oh, I see you reaching for a plate. Maybe you're saying I want more, and I'm pointing to more on the symbol system. So I'm saying to the child, this is the communicative intent. This is the words that I'm attributing to your actions. Trying to say to the children that, you know, you can do it this way. I absolutely want you reaching for that bread, but if you can't reach the bread, then here's a way that you could say it. I want more. So if we're looking at the pod system, more is one of the quick core or quick chat words, and it will be found on page 1A in your books. It will be under chat words folder in your 15 cell pod app from Toby Dynavox Compass. So more is there. So on this front page I can do amazing verbal referencing of what the children are doing all around. Oh, I can see you're reaching towards that book. Maybe we should read some more, and I'm touching more. Oh, yes, oh, I can see you nodding your head when I did that silly voice. Maybe you're saying, do that more, Mary Louise, do that more, do more silly voice. When the children are, giving you their plate. Oh, thank you, you're giving me your plate. And then I would say, on the child system, it looks like you're saying, I'm all done, I'm finished. Again, you have to have the AAC there so you can model and do this verbal referencing. So, it all comes back to setting up our environment so we can have success and the children can have success. So if the child is giving me their plate and I'm saying, oh, looks like you're saying, I'm all done, I'm finished, and I'm pointing to the all done and pointing to the finished, then I can look at how they're reacting, and if they're quite happy, like, yeah, here's my plate, thank you very much, and they toddle off, great, they have been communicating that. If they are giving me their plate with such intent, like, no, 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 you silly woman, I actually want more, then I can model that. I can verbally reference, oh, silly me, you giving me your plate because you want more. So again, here's the pod chat words page set. This is the pop-up that comes with chat words, so you see more there, you see me, you, so you can expand that. Oh, you want more. Oh, you're saying me, I want more. This is a classic one that we see a lot. Oh, honey, you're pushing the iPad right into my face. We can say, oh, it looks like you're saying help. Sure, I can help. Again, I'm on page 1, I'm on Quick Chat. I've got the home page of my core vocab system. Help is right there. Sure, I can help you. Let me have a look. Help, Mary Louise, help me with the iPad. Something's gone wrong. Yes, I can see you're giving me the iPad. I can help you. No problems, I can help. Here's the 36 keyword pod. This is page 1A, and you will see you have help, you have more, you have something different, as Erin was talking about. So you can say, you're simply open to page 1A on whatever book it is, and you can model a lot of language on that page 1A in any book, or just by sticking to chat words on your pod app. It's really important that, like, we would break down a core vocabulary system so that we can eat the elephant in tiny bites. We do that with pod as well, and one of the most important things that we need to get familiar with in the early days, and even if you're a pod user, to maybe give yourself a bit of oomph again, is to get really familiar with what's on the Quick Chat. Start using the page 1A and 1B, start using the chat words pop-up as much as you can throughout the day, so that you can use those quick core vocabulary words as you're verbally referencing what your child is doing, because these are the words that you can use day in, day out across settings and environments and activities. When the children are shouting at us, oh my God, you're shouting at me, I can hear you shouting and banging on the table. It looks like you're saying, hurry up, Mary Louise, hurry up, I want it. With the pod communication system, if you feel that you have a really good hang of chat words, you can model upside down and inside out, and you can model while you've got one child on your hip and you're modeling upside down with your pod hanging off your strap by your hip, then absolutely, let's start eating the next bite of the elephant. So let's look at the actions, the do something branch starter. So on your pod app, you've got do something is one of the links on the home page, and then here's your actions page. So you can say do something, want it. Going to your people's pop-up, I want it, you want it. Go get it, have it. So again, these are going to be more core words that are coming up. So it's good to be really familiar with the do something branch starter. If you're using a light tech pod system, then so this is the 16 per page. Your do something is found under more to say. So I go to page 2. Do something. So third column, third down, do something, page 10. There we go. Ah, you want, and then turn the page. Whoopsie. Turn the page, it. It is on 10B. I want it. Oh, look, you not have it. Not want it. Oh, you're pushing it away. You not want it. We have to remember there's a very big difference in telling a child what it is he communicated versus suggesting what he may be communicating. If a child is handing me their plate, I don't say, oh, you are saying I want more. It's, we can't know what is in the child's head. We can say what we think they are saying. So sometimes when we're verbally referencing, we have to remind ourselves we're not saying, oh, you're pushing it in my face. You're saying, I want help. You're giving me your plate. You're saying, I want more. We say, oh, it looks like you're saying, I want more. Because if we're wrong, then we've still got a chance to model that I want more, and the child has the chance to take up their communication term to say, no, not more, finished. So we preface the you are saying with, it looks like you are saying, I want more. Or some families say, oh, maybe you are saying, I want more. So when we're doing any type of verbal referencing, adding maybe to the phrase is really important. And it supports us to stop asking questions to the children, because we can stay on page 1A and 1B or the home page in any course system, and we can model doing things like, do you want more? Are you finished? Do you need some help? Are you done? Do you want it? Some more? That's not teaching the child how to use these words expressively. It's teaching the child how to answer a question. It's a very, very different communicative skills. So we need to stop asking the questions and start saying maybe. Oh, maybe you are telling me I want more, Mary Louise. Oh, yes, you're nodding your head. You're looking at me. Oh, I can see you're getting very excited. Yes. Oh, it looks like you're saying I want more. So I hope that distinction makes sense. I'm happy to answer questions about it if I've talked too fast and the accent is hard to understand. We also have to remember that we are not saying, I see you want more, show me more, point to more. No, we're saying, oh, it looks like you're saying I want more. This is about us modelling what the child is saying with all their multimodal communication. We're acknowledging the child's current expressive communication methods and simply modelling and showing how he could communicate those words, those phrases, those communicative intents using his AAC. But under no circumstances are we putting pressure on him to immediately repeat what we've said, show me more, because that's not authentic communication. So we're accepting everything that he does, knowing that all the children are strategic, they're intentional, they do what they do for a reason. Sometimes we don't understand the reason yet, and sometimes that's a huge problem-solving thing, but when we are referencing back what the children are doing, it supports their understanding that oh, I did that and she said that meant that. It supports their understanding of their body. Oh, when I reach my hand out, she thinks it means this. Oh, I could do that again. And we're showing the children that they do have control over their world and their body, even when their body often frustrates them and drives them batty. Verbal referencing is something that we use a lot when we're supporting the children to be able to clearly and consistently communicate yes and no. Knowing that yes and no are a skill, that it takes time, and that if you, being asked yes/no questions, you must always have a way to respond, I don't know, because life's very difficult when you're just answering yes/no questions, and we all need a way to say, I don't know. We all need a way to say, oh, tell me more, so we can get some more information about what this question is. So when we're supporting children to learn yes/no in a head nod and shake, if they're using symbols for yes and no, we are referencing what we see them doing. So if I'm saying, oh, I'm asking you a question, Erin, you need to tell me yes or no, would you like a drink? Oh, yes, you're moving your head down, you're telling me yes, I can see you nodding your head. Oh, wow, Erin, maybe, oh, look, I can see you looking at the cake. Maybe you'd like some cake. Oh, no, turning your head away, you're telling me no. We're mapping language onto the child's behaviour and multimodal communication and their actions. And if I say to Erin, oh, no, turning your head away, you're telling me no, and then she looks at me and glares at me or looks at the cake, oh, whoops, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were shaking your head telling me no. Maybe you're saying yes, I'm nodding my head, and I would be nodding my head too and modelling, yes, you're saying yes, I do want some cake. And as I'm sitting here in the hotel room, my head's nodding up and down. We use verbal referencing a lot when we're supporting the children to initiate social interactions appropriately, respectfully, and successfully. So when children are coming up to us and they're pulling our hair to get our attention, they're turning their face right into our face, then we are supporting the children by saying, when they come up to us and we know they're going for our hair, but their hand is just coming up to our arm, we're saying, oh, you're touching my arm. Have you got something to tell me? Oh, I'm listening. Saying when the child's coming up to you and they're flapping and their hands are up and they're nearly reaching for your face or your hair, you say, oh, I see you waving at me. Do you have something to say? So trying to say there are ways that you can enter social situations and communication interactions that are respectful for both parties, and this is what you're doing. Oh, you're touching my arm. Yes, I can see you've got something to say. I'm listening. I'm turning my face to you. I'm listening. When the kids are calling out, when they're vocalizing, when they're exploring their voice, oh, I hear your voice. I can hear you talking to me. I'm listening to you. Wonder what you've got to say. Oh, make sure, let's get your book here. I want to hear what you've got to say. Oh, I can see you looking at the cake. Maybe you want more cake. Is that what you've got to tell me? Oh, wow, well, let's get some more. And that's pretty much about it in terms of the verbal referencing side of things. It's a gorgeous strategy that we can use with all the children and adults, and it really supports the really early learners in communication and the children who are currently described as pre-intentional, which is a word none of us really like to use these days. I'd much rather say early communicators or emergent communicators. But if a child is labelled as pre-intentional, then we need to actually change the way we support the child, because they're not magically one day going to go, ping, I'm intentional now. We need to talk to the child in a way that shows that actually everything you do is intentional. We presume their intention and we map language onto it to say, you know what, when you do this, that tells me that. And that's how we can support successful interactions and emergent AAC use for the kids, simply by changing the way that we talk to them and the way that we think about how the children use their bodies. Does that make sense, Erin?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
If you can go ahead.
So Mary Louise, I think, yes. Yeah, now you send your screen over to Carolyn.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm struggling.
Yep.
Oh, you're doing it right.
You did it. You did it. We're good. So is mine showing yet? I'm hoping that you're seeing speech sound games. Not yet. Okay, well, hopefully in a minute.
Yeah, we are. We're seeing it.
All right, so I'm going to talk just very briefly about some speech sound games, some fun and learning opportunities. And just to show you again where this is in the 5 steps, we're looking at some teaching tasks. I have some poems, some songs, but there are also some tools. There was a book that is a handout for this session, and we're going to post videos. There will be a link, and I'm going to let Stacy jump in at the end and tell us where to find the videos. And I believe the videos from last week will be, the last session will be up there as well. So how can we support children who struggle with sound play? We know it seems like, I know sometimes when we look at assessments, people put, oh, this is not applicable, kids doing rhyming and so forth. And so we can do things like having videos to build an ear print for rhymes and words that start the same. We can make a rack for older students so that we'll feel age respectful. We can do some books. We can start helping them predict some rhyming words or some words that start the same, which is what we're working on today. the initial sounds, and we can do poems, and we can have songs to have a lot of fun with it. And so just as an example from today, there's a song called the More Song that I made up in 1985 to help kids. I was working with some students who were working on sign, but we've certainly done it with students who use symbol communication as well. And the song is just more, more, I want more of that. And just having fun as we're singing, we're touching more, more, and then if you want to do the I want, or if you want to just stick with more, that's great. But just a fun way to share through melody. And why would we do melody? Because melody aids memory. And if you don't believe it, I want you to think about what happens when it's 11 o'clock at night and you're in the parking garage and you know that your car is in J. But what comes before J? You're walking through trying to find it, and you find yourself singing that little alphabet song in your head. Melody aids memory. So we're going to look at terrific tongue twisters today. And again, I want you to think about cognitive clarity. Why are we doing this? We want children to pay attention to word beginnings. Last week we did some rhyming activities to pay attention to the ends of words. This time we want them to pay attention to the beginnings. We're going to include some words from the core 4 set. This week we're going to use more and different. So the tongue twisters are going to start with the letters M and D. And we also want to make sure that one of the reasons we use tongue twisters is that they're just so fun. So I was in New York City with my grandchildren, and I was up in my room quickly trying to get the tongue twisters and making them into videos before I had to leave. And the kids came up and said, "What are you doing, Nana?" I said, "Oh, I'm just doing some silly tongue twisters. Can we see?" So I showed him a video, and little 3-year-old Asher is going, again, more, more. He's so excited. He just wants to watch it over and over and over. And 5-year-old Julia runs downstairs, and you're going to see the one about Mom, and she says, "Mama makes more marvelous moves." And my daughter just looks at her like, "What?" And just looks at me and shakes her head. Oh my gosh, Mom and Nana's been doing something else silly. And Ethan's running around trying to change it and trying to add out words. He's 7. So just lots of fun. Your kids will love these. So we make tongue twister books. So it's great to go. This is a good time to go online and look up some tongue twister books, or to go to the library and pick out some and just read them and have fun with them. You can help make a tongue twister book using twisters that you build together. So we made this one for Maggie last year when she was in 6th grade, because Erin said, we really want to work on this kind of thing, but we don't want to do stupid babyish stuff. And so we talked to her friends, and they thought it would be really fun to have each one of them be a different animal. So we gave Maggie some choices, and she picked that she wanted to be a mouse. And she also could have been a monkey, and I think she could have been a moose, but she picked being a mouse. And so then the messy mouse made mini muffins. So just having a lot of fun with it. And here's one that Katie went, Julia ran down and called out to her mama. "Mommy makes more marvelous moves." So now we've got the M going on. We've got 2 twisters with M because we love repetition with variation. Really powerful. But we also want to use that word more, so we can just point out that word more. So we're working on phonemic awareness, and we're also connecting to what they're learning. So what we're going to do right now is go look at Mommy makes more marvelous moves. Let's look at that in terms of a video. So here I've taken the image, I've got the words, I've got a black background with yellow words, and now we're just going to watch me say it, and you're going to see the words highlighted. So kids can just listen to it over and over and just have a lot of fun with it.
Mommy makes more marvelous moves.
So that's just a fun little video. Now let's look at the next one, which is reminder that the brain is a pattern detector, not a rule applier. This is a Pat Cunningham statement, and it's just such a powerful thing. Because the brain is a pattern detector, I did 2 M rhymes, but I also want to look at a different letter. So you've got to have 2 or 3 sounds, because otherwise they just blow it off. They don't listen as carefully if everything starts with M. So we have D as well. So D might be for Dad and Daniela, the sister. M for Maggie and Mom. But D is also for that word different, and M is for more. So what you might want to do is to make up your own tongue twisters and do something else with Mom. So I have where they could choose to change out the verb, or you could choose to change out the adjective, or you could choose to change out the name. So you can do this in any way, but just let your child have a lot of fun with this. So here's a D one. Dimitri the dog dances with Dino Dan. So just really silly and fun ones. And here's one with Daddy. Daddy does not dig different dances. So there I was able to put in not and different. So now we're also going back to last set words and having fun with that. So I'm going to throw down the gauntlet right here, and whoever works with your child to come up with a daddy rhyme that has daddy and different in it, or a mommy rhyme with mommy and more, and makes a visual of it. You don't have to go add the words in and make it a video, but just have a video of you doing this with your child, or just a picture. The first person that posts that on the Angelman Communication Training Facebook group will get a prize. I'm going to send you a link to my Singing to Learn CD, which has about 40 songwords you can download and have fun with, and a lot of them have fun phonemic awareness activities. So, is this going to be a video or is it a book? And the answer is yes. What I've done is made 4 separate videos that we'll post. I have a book with all 4 of those tongue twisters. It will be posted in Keynote, so you can use it with the Keynote app if you have that on your iPad, or it's a PDF, so you can open in iBooks on your computer or on your iPad. So I'll just show you the book very quickly. So here's my book. So the first one is Dimitri the dog, Daddy does not dance, Mommy makes marvelous moves, and Maggie the Minnie Mouse made mini muffins. And I will also make this with a white background, so you can just print it out as a light tech book, and I will be posting that as well. So possible next steps for this are to make your own tongue twisters using D and M. Remember, somebody gets a prize. Use your own photos, your actual daddy and your actual mommy. Don't worry about modeling every one of those words. Just, point out more, but don't worry about going to find daddy and dances and dig. Please don't go crazy. Just have a lot of fun. Remember the slideshow. And Erin, I'm going to go to the next one so you can finish up.
All right, so given all this, I know this was a ton of information, but I think just the reflection lesson from Mary Louise was priceless. So I hope you guys all already have some things in your minds of what it is you want to do next. We will be posting these handouts that Carolyn's already shared that she'll be uploading. We're also working on making just a one-page handout of each webinar, just literally just one page with what those 4 core words are. That got slowed down because my laptop drowned in coffee, and what I had worked on was lost, but that will be going up there. We'll be sharing that as a handout so that after each webinar, if you're trying to share this information, you don't have to just rely on the handout with the slides, but you actually have a quick summary of what we did. Read the Facebook post in the ASF Communication Training Series group, and if you've got questions, if you're having success, if you're struggling, whatever's going on, do share it there, because your experience is likely a common one. So whether you're having success or whether you're coming up against barriers, let's problem solve them with you so we can problem solve them with others. And we'll post a few fun things like we did last week of just some quick ideas of how to use the words like memes that are shared on Facebook, and plan to join us next week when Carolyn talks about shared reading, so how to really take these words that we're using into the reading experience with our kids. So we'll take questions, and how about while we're taking questions, Carolyn, why don't you just share the last slide so we can just remind everyone that the ASF Communication Training Series is made available by the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. through a generous grant from the Foster Family Charitable Foundation in California. And then I think what we had talked about was, Karen, if you take it back up to the questions page, Stacy will unmute people who have questions.
Erin, I don't have any hands raised yet, but I do have a question that was typed in. When we are modeling these words on AAC device, are we only using those words on the AAC devices? For example, the sentence, "Thank you for your help." Will we just say "Thank you for your" and then model the word "help" on the AAC app?
That's how I do it. So what we're trying to do now, when we're just getting started, is really just think about the key word. What's kind of the most high frequency, most important individual word that you can use right now, and don't try to model the whole sentence. You'll find that if you try to do that, you're going to really struggle. What we're hoping to do is, by the end of this webinar series, by next spring, you'll have experience having modeled so many different things that modeling longer messages will become a lot easier. But even then, what we're trying to do is draw our kids' attention to some really targeted words. I think if we try to model every single word, we can lose them very quickly. And that's actually something we really saw with Maggie. When we started having success and she was using it expressively, we too quickly tried to model more words, and we actually very quickly lost her. So I would start kind of the general rule that we've talked about in earlier webinars is that if your child is not currently using the system at all, then really just focus on modeling one or two words from each message. And when they get to the point where they're actually now starting to use one or two words, now start expanding on those with longer messages.
Okay, great. There's another question. If we didn't get to model the first 4 words from 2 weeks ago, do we just do all 8 now, or should we just do 4 for a week and then the next 4?
It is totally up to you, whatever makes sense to you. What you'll find is that these 8 words total actually combine really beautifully. So if you haven't yet started with the first 4, take a look at it, but I think it's really going to be an individual choice. If you are looking at all this and you are feeling overwhelmed, if you're looking at your child's system and you are feeling overwhelmed, then I would say don't even try to start with 4, just try to start with just 1 for a day, or 2 that you're trying to use for a whole week. But to me, the most important thing you can do is find something you're going to be successful at so that you start to really develop some confidence and this starts to become more natural, because that's the real barrier here, is that this is just a really unnatural way to communicate until it becomes a new habit. So I know some people are going gangbusters and doing these 8 words plus many more already, and others, it just kind of, I think you just have to take a gauge of yourself.
And I would just like to jump in and say I agree very much. It's the Mount Everest factor. Just because we already know words, we really have to gauge how the students are doing with the words. If we have to be really careful not to overwhelm them. Just because the words are there, we don't have to use them all. So using the sets of words more frequently throughout the day is a huge goal. It's saying, well, I'm just going to jump ahead and do all 40 and go on and have model all the foods and all the clothing. That is a recipe for frustration for everyone. So.
Okay, I have one more question, if you don't mind. I am purchasing Proler Quote tonight and plan to start with my daughter tonight. While I model on the iPad, should I have a printout version in front of her, or should I have a second iPad in front of her?
Totally depends. What I personally find that works best for me is I actually like to model on a paper copy that I've printed and laminated. I just find that I use that a lot more, and I'm not quite sure why. I think in part it's because I don't have to worry about pressing the button exactly correctly, or I can indicate a folder but not actually have to follow through going into the folder and going from there. I personally feel less performance anxiety when I'm modeling on a paper copy because I just don't have to get it perfect, whereas when I hear the iPad talking as well, sometimes it just makes me more self-conscious. So it absolutely totally depends. Whatever works for you. If you've got access to multiple iPads, then by all means, but it really completely depends. Some of our kids, if they struggle with things that are laminated, if they struggle with the glare on laminate, or if they really like things that are shiny, they actually might just be too distracted by a paper copy, and then some of those kids actually do better on an iPad anyway, just because it doesn't have that. Other kids are just so crazy about their magical iPads that they're so busy trying to hit the home button to, get to YouTube and Netflix and everything else that they get frustrated when we're trying to model on the system. And with those kids, it might be easier just to do a paper copy. Completely depends. My daughter really struggles with auditory processing, which means that the more words I use, the more likely she is to actually tune me out. And we've had good success modeling with her iPad because I speak very quietly and let the iPad do a lot of the copying. And a digital voice is just much more consistent than a human voice because we change how we say each word each time we say it. So it completely depends. Whatever works for you. I think you just have to experiment. What worked for us was to put up laminated versions of Maggie's homepage all over the house. I mean, at the front door, at the back door, in the shower, next to her bed, in the washroom, so that I could always just reach out, because I've got a very busy kid, a very mobile kid, and I have to have those words in arm's length, because I just wasn't that great at making sure I carried the iPad around. And if you're just getting started tonight, your first goal might be just to explore the vocabulary, and a week from now have selected the vocabulary. It might be that your first goal is just to carry the iPad around, or to print out a copy and just carry that around. Just know that we're talking about climbing Mount Everest here, and downloading the app tonight and getting started tonight is actually a lot of goals all combined into one.
And I know this won't help with that archived webinar after tomorrow, but for people who are on live, just know that Promoco to Go is 50% off today, and I believe through tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, there's been a lot of buzz about that.
For the families that are just starting, I think we have a rule in our kind of pod community that for the first week, you just problem solve how you're going to carry the AAC around, because we can all be the world's best modelers, but if we don't have it with us, then there's no point. So if you've got the iPad and you've downloaded the app, I think two things that we've learnt the hard way over the years is that the talker is the talker is the talker. The iPad, if you are having a communication device that's an iPad, then you need to think about locking it in to guided access, having it as the talker only. There is not YouTube on it, there is not Netflix, that is the talker. And there is nothing else hidden behind there when suddenly it does come out of guided access. Very few of the children will be in YouTube and then happily go out of YouTube into their AAC app and say, I like this, it's my favorite, and then head back into YouTube. It's just not going to happen. So we need a system that we can have a talker that we can model with while the child is on YouTube on the other iPad. So for the families that have more than one talker, often they'll have a dedicated talker that is locked in, that is only the AAC system, and then the other family play iPads might also have the AAC on there. So when you're out and about, you can go into it if you decide we really want to, practice some modelling at the park, or but you always have that dedicated talker as well. And then if you've got other family members that come over and want to have a muck around, then you can give them the Play iPad and open up the AAC. But I think the initial goals for so many of us is just how are we going to carry this around? You know, am I going to have it on a strap? Am I going to have it on a harness? How do I problem solve when I'm, you know, getting 3 kids in the car, when I'm supporting this child to learn to walk and I'm also carrying an iPad? So sometimes the goal for week 1 is just problem solve how you're going to have it with you all the time. Over and out.
Okay, there's no more questions. So, ladies, would you like to add anything else, or?
Nope. See you next week.
All good. See you then.
See you then.
All right, thank you for joining us today. If you had a question that was not answered today, please visit the Facebook group page to post your question. The communication series schedule through the end of November is available on our website. To view the schedule and also to view any recordings, please visit www.angelman.org. And once you're on the website, please select Communication Training on the right-hand side. Hope that you join us next week for Reading as Communication, Interaction during Shared Reading with Dr. Caroline Musselwhite. Have a great day.